Hello, welcome back to All for United WFC. This is a different get me words out. Different kind of FA Cup final review to the one we did last year, isn't it? When we had loads of people on and talking about a win. So a little bit different, but we'll get through it all as we sure do with the three of us. It's a bit well, I don't know what the word is, isn't it? Is it ironic? Is the word? I don't know what the word is, but there's three of us and there's three goals to talk about. Unfortunately, none of them from a United point of view. So we'll dive into all that as we get through it. But firstly, let's just see how everyone is. Charlie, aside from the result, did you have a good weekend?
Yeah, it was all right. Yeah, it's always nice when it's the weekend. It was disappointing. It's a bit flat, a bit deflated, but unsurprising, I think. So it'd be interesting one to talk about. It's not all doom and gloom though, but yeah, just a feeling of disappointment. I think to go out with a bit of a whimper.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Obviously, we'll dive into some of the specifics of that as well. Barry, yourself?
Yeah, it's not a good way to end the weekend, not a good way to end the season. It was, no fun at all, to be fair. So, no. I did enjoy it. Saturday was all right. Sunday was okay. I think I was saying to Charlie when she came in as well, it was a later start last year, which I think helped with things. I don't think it did this time, having the earlier kickoff. It didn't really lead to anything better. And yes, Leash, incredibly well polished. Thank you very much.
I want to start with that very quickly before we get onto the football, obviously, because it was announced as a sellout, and obviously the attendance was actually lower than the previous time we played Chelsea a couple of years ago. It was 2,000 less than what we saw there. This is going to sound a strange question. Is there disappointment around that? Like, do we think that, when they announce it as a sellout, I don't know what Wembley is, like 90,000, and it's only, I say only, but that's a lot of people, 74,000. It's not as high as it was 2 years ago when we played Chelsea. Is there a slight disappointment in that, that it's maybe not as high as we've seen previous, in kind of the last couple of years? Or, like what Barry said, Charlie, did the kickoff time kind of almost shafted a lot of people?
Well, I don't know really. I think for me, I know like this season there's been just generally FA Cup final included a little bit of a drop off in attendance figures, but also this is the first. I think this season is the one that was always going to tell us where we were with regards to the growth of women's, like sustained growth of women's football, because it's the first season where they're not coming off the back of a major tournament. So where obviously the Olympics and the Euros and the World Cup, so all those things were happening. I just think, it felt like there was a lot less neutrals knocking about this year, which I personally think is a good thing. So not disappointed. I think it's still great numbers, not off the back of a major tournament. But it's interesting to know why, if it was a sellout, why that many people didn't come, because it wasn't early kickoff, but one of the teams is in London, aren't they? And United always travel well, and obviously the Premier League had quite kindly, I think, moved the Chelsea United men's game to the Friday to accommodate that. I don't know when the Conference League final is. Is that also this week? I don't know if that's had some sort of impact. I can't imagine it would be a major one if it had, with both men's European finals being this week. But I'm just trying to look at it as a bit of a glass half full. It's the first season not having a major tournament to come off the back of. So I think when you look at it that way, I think it's a positive, really.
Yeah, I think it's a fair way of putting it. And obviously, Barry, this is something I've spoken about, I think, a couple of times on here. I've definitely mentioned it on Wofa about attendances this season in general have dropped, across most clubs in the WSL. So this doesn't surprise me as such. I was more surprised it was announced as a sellout. And someone actually did message me at the time saying, it's great they've sold out. It will be really good if they can get 75 in. And I was like, really? Like, that's like 15,000 less. But obviously, they were pretty spot on. And I think, as Bree mentioned, there, transfer-wise, if you were trying to get down from around that area on the Sunday morning, it's pretty difficult to get there on the Sunday morning. You'd either have to go the day before or drive, essentially.
I think it's interesting you mentioned about the attendances going down, because that's actually only a case on average for 5 of 12 of the clubs. For Liverpool, it's gone up. Villa's gone up. Spurs went up. Leicester went up. Brighton went up. And of course, Chelsea went up marginally. Arsenal's went down a little bit, but theirs went down from nearly 30,000 to 28,800. And Arsenal, for me, are just leading the way in terms of what they do. I know that people always say we don't like it at Old Trafford because the atmosphere is not that great, but 28,000 people coming through your door is going to give you a lot more money than sort of 6,000 popping into LSB every once in a while if they feel like it. So, you know, I do think there is something to be said there, but that's obviously got nothing to do with this week. I think this is a very key thing as well. It's not uncommon that fans of other clubs buy tickets hoping their club make the final. So City and Arsenal might have, maybe not City, they're not that silly, but Arsenal fans have probably bought them in the hope that they're going to make the final and then didn't. So as a result, don't do anything with it, which is silly really, but some people will just go, well, it was only 30 quid, I'm not too bothered, or it was only this, that or the other, and if we can't sell it, it's not the end of the world. Some people did want to sell it and then weren't able to sell it because, you know, people weren't necessarily buying. So you sort of start there with 74,000, which is still an absolutely brilliant turnout. You know, if we said you're going to get 74,000 for the FA Cup final, bearing in mind we were delighted over 30,000 a few years back, I think this is quite something. So 74,000 was incredibly good. There was a lot of people there, but the atmosphere did for me still feel a little bit flatter than it did last year as well. And I maybe people just weren't drunk enough. I don't know, because, you know, Charlie didn't try climbing at all on this occasion. So clearly that might have been part of the issue. But yeah, it's I think still a very good attendance in the grand scheme of things, and yet more proof to people like Alan Brazil that he's just wrong.
Yeah, that's a fair way of looking at it. I do agree with James, though. I wouldn't say dreadful, but I definitely think it wasn't as good, even the last time we played Chelsea. I don't think it was as good as that one either. I don't quite know why. Maybe that's just because there was more neutrals or whatever. But yeah, to be fair, Gabby, I'm glad it wasn't as warm. Last year was way too hot. This year was just about right, I think, on that one. But there we go. Right, on the pitch, let's talk about the lineup to start with, because there was a big omission, and Skinner listened to me, which I was really happy with on Friday. We had a big discussion about it on the preview about whether it was Toone was going to come out of the side or not. Charlie, when you saw the lineup, were you surprised or happy by that? With I guess the midfield is the big one.
I was surprised because she's a big game player, isn't she? And she's got a history at Wembley at doing the business for us. It's worth a conversation though, because I don't think it paid off. And it won't be exclusively because of that. We don't want to say that United didn't perform to their best ability because one player was changed, because that's that dire, isn't it, if that's the case? But we were pretty toothless, I think, in midfield and up front for a lot of the game. There was very little creativity. And when that happens, people will look to who's not playing, and she wasn't playing. I quite was looking forward to the idea of an absolutely fuming Toone coming on probably after an hour. But we were sort of under the cosh by then. So yeah, it was a big call. I've no evidence of this at all. This is me just saying things in the wind. But I just wonder if, I don't know. I just get a feeling maybe Toone might be off. I don't know why. I just think it's been an interesting second half of the season for her. I hope she isn't. Yeah, it was a big call to make. United didn't win, so people will probably look to that as being the reason we didn't win, but it wasn't, I don't think.
It certainly wasn't. As we get into the first half, I want to say, because I actually think it was the right decision. I'll explain when we come to talk about the first half. But Barry, you argued the case for Toone on Friday, so were you surprised to not see her line up?
I was surprised merely because you were just chatting your usual drivel about it and then started giving it the old, oh, but I know he won't do it. And so you lulled me into a full sense of security kind of lad. I was sitting there thinking, well, it'll be all right. He'll just do what he normally does. Listen, I don't have the ability to be PG in my views today. I'm not happy. I'm not happy at all. And I'm not happy because the season's over now. So now that the season's over, I haven't got to sit here and try and be positive about what might happen at the end of the season and what could happen. That's it now. Now is the time to look back over the season. Well, I mean, not now. Next week will probably be the time when we look over the whole season. But it's not good enough. It's just not. And I'm really pleased that we made Europe. Like, genuinely pleased that we got Europe. But there's just moments in my life where I sit here and I want to grab him by the side of his and just wobble his head and just actually see what's there. Because we're playing against Chelsea, Connor. Like, this isn't a walk in the park against Spurs. This is Chelsea, the best team that they have got in the WSL. They're inevitable. They've just gone unbeaten. And I know your reasons for the midfield was reasonably fair, but you're taking someone 24 hours earlier, she's named player of the season. I'll just stick her on the bench then. Stick her on the bench. Like, you're opening yourself up immediately. And I'm not saying you should pick Ella Toone because the fans want Ella Toone. Ella Toone steps up in big games. And we noticed a bit more of a difference and a bit more of an attack in the opening part of the second half with Ella Toone. Now, was part of that because she had a bit of desire about her and she was trying to prove, stick two fingers up to Mark Skinner? You might have all of that. But that didn't help. The whole decision-making of Mark Skinner through the entirety of that game was woeful. Woeful. From start to finish. Now, I'm tired of hearing people giving it that we've only won one game in 5 of our last since he signed his new contract. Shut up. That's ridiculous. There's no context in that. Get a grip. Don't try using that. Just use actual facts. And the actual facts are that he wasn't good enough today. Yesterday. He wasn't good enough. And his decision-making was just woeful all the way through. We're changing players around. We'll get to that, I'm sure. But for the starting lineup, it's not good enough. It's just not good enough. You can't start Aoife Mannion at right back. I'm sorry. I love Aoife. She's a brilliant centre back. If you'd have told me that we were putting Aoife at centre back and Maya at right back, all right, no problems. I'd still question why we haven't dropped Dominique back in. But he did eventually. When Millie Turner was injured, he puts Dominique back in. It's not a tricky decision to make. He didn't sit there and go, oh, no, I definitely need Dominique in midfield, so I'll do a little bit of jiggery-pokery in the defence. He just immediately put her in the back line. So put her in the back line and stick an experienced right back. More importantly, I mean, to be fair, you don't get much more experience than Aoife Mannion in terms of our defence, but Maya Letitia would have more pace. She'd have ran up and down there a lot better. We were playing balls into Aoife Mannion as if she was Jade Riviere. And I'm afraid Aoife Mannion's closer to Rachel Williams than Jade Riviere. So she wasn't getting to those balls. It was never, ever, ever going to work in a million years. And, I sat here on the preview and I tried so hard to just be positive and come up with all of those bits and pieces. But I did not think we were going to win. I really didn't. I said 3-0 to us. I got the right score. It just went the other way around. But I did not think we were going to win because I knew that the minute we lost Jade Riviere, that was it. Our right side was just completely gone. So it was all going to be up to Salim, but she was trying to work with him. And to be fair, he had a couple of moments, but we didn't play to our strengths, which is we've got to play the ball into our feet and then allow her to ping the ball off for Salim to get to. It was never going to happen. It was just a diabolical decision. And for me, Ella Toone has to start that game. If you want to take Ella Toone off and then bring Clinton on for a bit of pace and, to try and get a bit more energy into it afterwards, that's fine. But it just didn't work. It just didn't work. I mean, it worked for the first 20 minutes, but we didn't need to worry too much about the defence because we were just closing everything down. But I'm babbling now about stuff that I know you're going to ask me in a minute. So I'll get back off my high horse and just suffice it to say that no, I was fuming. And that my final words when I walked past Andrew Wall at the end of the game was, "This is why Mark Skinner should listen to Barry and not Connor."
It's in one of the things you said was interesting there though, because I felt like Mannion was all right defensively. I think, but obviously offered little to nothing going forward. But it's like you said Barry, and a few people have been saying in the comments about like when Jade went off in the derby, like everyone around you is going, "Oh, that's it now, that's it." We might not win this game. We won't win Arsenal. We won't win the FA Cup. And that's probably a sign of where we are. And I think back to yesterday and the subs that Chelsea were able to make that we just didn't have in our makeup to be able to do. And the fact is, we have a really good best 11, starting 11. I think a really good one, but there is not enough when there is an injury to one of the key players. I don't think there's enough there. But that's not just the case for us. That's the case for almost everyone, bar Chelsea, isn't it? And that's where Chelsea are a step ahead. Now, some people are furious about it, aren't they? People are like, I get annoyed, but it's out of jealousy, really, if I'm being completely honest, that Chelsea have 2 or 3 world-class starting 11s. But all power to them. I wish we were in that position. I wish we were in a position where we could go out and throw money and get these players. But they're also really well coached. Let's not pretend they've just got the best players and therefore that's what makes them better. Tactically, Master got it perfect yesterday. Just gave us first 15, 20 minutes. We had a bit of a foot in it, didn't we? And then they just ramped it up a notch, moved the ball quickly. And we weren't overrun, but we just didn't have an answer. We just couldn't get out of it. We couldn't get out of our own half at times. And part of that's to do with Jade not being there. But what I would love for us in the next couple of years is to get past the point where one player gets injured and that's us done. That's the difference, isn't it? They're not done. Chelsea aren't done. Lucy Bronze gets injured. They're not done. Gura Wrighton doesn't play most of the season. They're not done. Maya Ramirez out injured. They're not done. Like, they've just got a conveyor belt of players, but that takes money and time. And I feel like we could have time. I'm just not sure the money will be there. And particularly as women's transfer fees continue to climb.
And planning, Charlie. And planning.
Yes. Yeah. And like I said,
Chelsea will know the players leaving and they already know who it is they're bringing in. There's
they've already got them ready.
Yeah. I want to come back to the point about Chelsea as a whole later on in terms of the gap and the rest of it, because I know Skinner got asked quite a couple of times about it. You've both on the line very quickly. As I said, that's the team I would have gone for purely because, as Barry, you've already referenced, I think we actually started well. And I know I put this on the All for United tweet, and I had a lot of people saying, "Oh, we haven't played well," or wherever else. In my opinion, we did. In that first half, until the penalty, I actually thought we did all right. Because at the end of the day, this is what I don't know what people class as success for United or what people's barometers are in terms of where this team limits are. We are not as good as Chelsea as a unit. Like, the depth-wise, everything to do with them. United fans are not going to like hearing that. We're not. So we've got to do something to try and compete with them. And at LSV, we did that. We created more opportunities at LSV than we did at Wembley, granted. But I thought we stayed in it. And that's why I wanted that midfield, because we battled with them. We were in the game. In terms of Miyazawa, Janssen and Clinton. Well, I thought Clinton was brilliant in that first kind of opening 20-25 minutes, winning the ball back and creating a couple of opportunities. Granted, not loads of clear-cut opportunities as it was at LSV, but it was certainly better than what it was earlier in the season and at Kingsmeadow, and certainly better than last season, which I know is not a high standard to hold things to. But, I mean, is that a fair assessment? Do people disagree that to me, I thought the first, up until the goal, I thought was all right. Granted, I'm not saying it was amazing. We didn't blow Chelsea away, as True said. We didn't have a single shot on target in the first half. So, like I said, I'm not saying this is incredible, but it's not like we were camped in our own box, defending everything. We were pushing up the pitch. We did have a couple of corners and creating chances in that respect. It was just that clinicality and dynamism. Is that the right word? I don't know what I'm going with there, but in terms of that flair, I guess, in the final third to really create something. But we did have the possession in the right areas, in my opinion. So I don't know, Charlie, would you say that's fair, that it was actually all right from the off?
Yeah, I think that, like I said, I think the first 10 or 15 minutes we looked okay. I was expecting us to approach the game like we did at LSV, where I think in the end we were unlucky or not unlucky, just didn't take the chance that we had. I was expecting us to go for it, really, because, I mean, everyone in the WSL, everyone who watches it knows that you can't expect to just sit in against Chelsea for 90 minutes, because in the end they'll just grind you down because they're that good. I think there was Janssen's chance where she was in the 18-yard box and she just snatched at it and it went miles over. And you kind of, someone with her experience, talk about shots on target, you want it. Like there was a couple of headers. I think Turlin had a header, but it was really tame. It was right at Hannah Hampton. who is a good goalkeeper, but is prone to mistakes. Hannah Hampton, let's not forget that. We've put her under very little pressure, I think. So yeah, it was just the word I would use to describe our attacking play would be lumbering. I would say lumbering. So slow, a bit ploddy, like almost playing with the shackles on with Bizet. It was almost a bit of fear there. I think maybe just worried, just not wanting to maybe going to not get hammered. And in the end, the scoreline makes it look like that's what happened anyway. So I think we had chances, but again, the story of our season against these sorts of sides, bar City at the Etihad, is we didn't make the most of them, I think. And again, what we had to come on in place of those forwards wasn't better than what was on the pitch, or wasn't different enough to change the game. So it was just all a little bit one-dimensional. And we just didn't have it in us, I don't think, on the day. And that's it. Chelsea were just better, but they were better without having to get into fifth gear, I think.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like I said, I know there's a couple of comments. Lindsay's saying obviously agreeing with Barry. That's fine. You can disagree with me. I just think, like, I'm not saying, as I said, we were blitzing Chelsea with a load of chances and the rest of it. My point was more around, I wanted us to stay in the game for as long as possible, and then you bring a game changers on to try and win the game. That's what I wanted to get. Like I said, this is just my opinion. People can say otherwise, but that would have been my game plan. I felt the game plan was working because Chelsea. Let's not pretend. Chelsea didn't have loads of chances in the first half. They weren't battering us. We weren't going, Fallon's had to make some amazing saves there. She had a comfortable save down to her left. There was the block, obviously, from Galton. That is it. It's not like they were peppering the goal and had loads and loads of chances in the first half, because we were defending well and we were pushing up. The problem was when we got into the final third, we weren't doing anything with it. And that's why the shot count is low, because we were getting to the final third and just rushing things and not getting the crosses in, not getting a shot away and not doing the rest of it. So that's why I say we played well, but it wasn't because of anything else in that sense. But Barry, obviously people are agreeing with you, some are agreeing with me. Obviously, if you want to put your side across in terms of the first 20 minutes, let's just go up to the penalty, the first 43 minutes or so.
I mean, I enjoyed the first half for the most part, but the issue is going to be, I was very fortunate. I was sat next to some very knowledgeable people, otherwise known as the mother and father of Keris. And it was lovely, actually, to have some people there to sort of just chew the fat over. And you know what we noticed at first was just there was a real hunger, a real desire. We were in their faces. I mean, there's some people saying, that Chelsea were the better side, and they were over the full 90. But you look at that first 20 minutes, we did everything right in terms of how you stop Chelsea from playing. Chelsea play like they've got a swagger consistently, but it doesn't matter who you are. You can be the best at absolutely anything. If you are not given time on the ball, you will eventually make a mistake. It doesn't matter how good you are, you will make them. And that's what we have spent our entire season doing. I mean, you look at our attacking stats this season, it's been pretty poor. We've been the fourth highest for carries into the final third. Obviously, you've got Arsenal, City and Chelsea above us, only 214 in the WSL, compared to 328 for Arsenal, 315 for City, 275 for Chelsea. So you start looking at how we do that. That's just running into the final third rather than passing. Our possession, we only generally hold on to the ball at 49.9%. So we roughly have half of the possession in a game. But the likes of City, Arsenal, Chelsea are closer to 60-65%. And when you move into the progressive passes, and this is the bit that always winds me up, because this is what we don't do, is to use those progressive passes of about 10 yards. We were on 783, which puts us in fifth. Arsenal, we had 1,271. Chelsea had 1,029. City had 1,173. These are people that are using their possession in order to attack, and we don't do that. So when you're playing against a side like that, you've got to stop them from doing what they do best. But that means, and this is what we said, They've got to do that for 90 minutes. You can't afford to drop off. And it's so frustrating because after 20 minutes, it's almost as if then at that point we went, well, that's it. We've done 20 minutes now. We've got over the hump. So we're going to step off. And all of a sudden, we're leaving space between the player and us, which then gives them the space to start thinking about, well, what do I do with the ball? And we weren't doing that before. We were closing them down. We're getting the ball off of them. We're getting in their way. And for some reason, we just went, oh, no, it's all right. We're going to let you play for a bit now. And as a result, they started to step up. We gave them the opening that they needed in order to be able to start taking a foothold in the game, and they did. And all of a sudden, that just meant Chelsea were starting to knock the ball about nicely, using the space that was available. And those little pass and moves that they were doing consistently gets them in round to the right-hand side, round to the left-hand side. They weren't even just picking on Mannion. They went, it doesn't matter where we go because we can bop this ball around you if you give us time. That's exactly what we did. We went, go on, yeah, go for it. And we were relying on people like May Letizia. I saw Uncle Tony or whatever his name is right at the very beginning going, oh, I had all these people saying May Letizia would walk into the Chelsea side. I still believe she would because she did some magnificent scanning of that ball. And she was absolutely unreal at getting back there. I'm a little bit disappointed with the second goal, but we'll get to that one. So I think for me, it wasn't terrible, but we were hanging on. And I think if we'd have got to the penalty and not given that away and would have got to half time, 0-0, you feel a little bit better about it. But I mean, at the end of the day, it was a silly penalty to give away. And so as a result, a bit of a drama. So, you know, that opening 20 minutes was by far our best moment of the game in terms of how we were dealing with Chelsea. The second half, I felt we did try and think a bit more about how we were going to try and get forward. But certainly up until the penalty, 20 minutes, nailed it, no problems. And Clinton was brilliant there. I would argue that after that 20 minutes, I don't really think I saw Grace Clinton much after that, nor indeed many of the other forward players, because there was absolutely no need for the ball to go anywhere near them because we were too busy chasing after Chelsea and just standing off them and letting them play.
Yeah, I think that's what you mentioned. Clinton, I forgot to say the player of the match poll is in the chat, by the way. I missed. So I asked the guys to put their player of the match names in the chat, and I've completely misread half of the names that have come through. So the players on the poll: Janssen, Letizia, Clinton, and Miyazawa are the four that are on there for this one, and it's very close. Everyone's on around 20%, so it's on. Mayor's on 40 now. That's changed completely when I changed the tab, so it's fairly close for a second. So there's a lot of votes for a lot of people there. So yeah, get your votes and we'll come to that towards the end. Right, very quickly on the Chelsea goal. Is it a penalty? Are we all agreed that it is? What are we saying on this one? To me, it is. I think I know there was a lot of complaints live in the stadium from United fans around us, but yeah, I don't know why she's sticking her leg out like that. To me, that's a penalty. Unfortunately,
it was just all a bit desperate, wasn't it? I think.
I didn't see it live. You know, it's been a long time since I've been able to stand with some of the United fans, and I forgot how big John is, and so the result I couldn't see over his head sometimes, and he blocked my view on that one. So I had to wait to see the replay, but it was as clear as day at that point. So it didn't look more like she was training to be on the next series of Cobra Kai than worrying too much about football. So it's absolutely a penalty. And what was really disappointing about it was that Mayer had got the rebound off of that as well. So, you know, we looked like we were going to clear our lines. And that's the thing. Sometimes you can have a bit of desperate defending, but what you can't have is leaving your leg out and doing that. To be clear, though, and I do have to point this out, it's absolutely a penalty, but Erin Cuthbert went down like she was JFK. Like, I'm not kidding. And then she held her leg for a little bit longer. Like, genuinely, I expect more from Erin Cuthbert. She's meant to be like a Roy Keane sort of person. And actually, that was more Robert Pires, just sort of lying around on the floor, rolling about. Oh, I'm all hurt. Shut up. That was ridiculous.
As I say, I think the theatrics are what threw the fans, to be honest, because I think Rosa just said this there, like, didn't look it live, but then, you know, when you watch it back, it definitely is. And I think that's maybe what threw the fans is how, like I said, theatrical the jump was, but it definitely was, you know, in that sense. And Fallon, I I can't actually remember the penalty. She dived the wrong way. Not that it matters anyway. It's a 50-50 on a penalty or whatever. Where you dive.
I did like her. I didn't like the penalty. Gross. But what I did like is we saw a side of Fallon that we've not seen before when that happened. There was just a little bit of gamesmanship, wasn't there? Took the ball, rolled it not through Niamh Charles' legs, which she might as well have. And I quite like that.
Kind of a Chloe Kelly there, didn't she? I loved it.
Yeah, just back off you. Yeah, it's disappointing. It's always difficult to concede at that point, isn't it? It's like Barry said, you're having a complete different conversation and having to chase the game against Chelsea is difficult. And we didn't chase the game against them, unfortunately, when we came back out. But it was unlucky. I think Bizzett's taken a lot of stick for that. But that on its own as an isolated incident is not why we didn't win. But I think Cuthbert's movement was decent. She left her, didn't she, for dead, and she'd already committed to putting her leg out and then couldn't do anything about it. And actually, like if it was the other way around, I'd be saying, I don't care. So Janssen might be the equivalent. I don't care how Janssen goes down in the box. If she's thrown herself down, a penalty is a penalty, as much as it pains me to say it. But again, maybe then I would have liked to have come out and been a bit like, do you know what, let's just push, let's pressure, let's go for it. Maybe I thought maybe it might allow us to play with a little bit more freedom. I don't know. But yeah, it was a penalty. And again, it's one of those things, isn't it? Fallon goes the right way. Her ginormous frame saved it, but she doesn't. So it's unlucky.
I think as well, that almost just, it didn't kill it, but it did feel a bit like because it was just before half time as well. It was almost like, I do believe if we'd have gone in at half time, that would not have been a 3-0 game. It's just the fact it was right on half time. And I think second half, obviously we'll get to that just in just a second. Obviously we'll talk about the subs as a separate thing as well, because I know Barry's got a bit to say on the subs, as we discussed after the game yesterday on that one. And we had about 4 different formation changes in the second half. I don't know what was going on.
It was like Championship Manager, wasn't it? It was like when I would play Championship Manager as like a 13-year-old. Just be like moving everyone everywhere, gung-ho, not gung-ho, everyone behind the ball. It was just...
Should we talk about that quickly then? Let's talk about the subs in the second
half.
Because I can't lie to you, I think this just killed us. Like, I don't remember us having a single chance. I know the subs were a bit sporadic, and I know that some of them were enforced. I can't lie to you, I'm amazed Galton stayed on. After she went down for 5-6 minutes, and then kind of was hobbling around and stayed on, as she did. So I was amazed. I'm just getting up on my phone to see when the subs were actually made. So it was, obviously, Toone came on at half-time. Skinner said that was an injury for Millie Turner, so Janssen dropped back. So there was one positional change in that sense. Then Mallard came on for Mannion, and we went to a back 3, and Bizet and Galton were the wing back. Galton then went down. Sandberg then came on for Gabby George, who also went down. So then it was another system change. And then Williams and Nelson came on for Bizet and Miazara in the 80th minute. And again, I don't know what our shape was at that point. It was almost just like everyone everywhere. Charlie, do you tend to agree that I guess the subs just didn't really have obviously Toone at half-time and Mallard at 70 minutes probably had the most time to have an impact. But apart from Toone's effort, about 2-3 minutes after or 5 minutes after half-time when she hit it straight hands, I don't remember either of them in the game.
I know, but I suppose the idea of her coming on at half-time made sense, didn't it? It made sense to try and make something happen and force the issue. But it was just I didn't notice Galton had gone down, to be honest. I was too apoplectic at everything else. But she was also not great, if we're being honest. I mean, not that anyone was. So when Mallard came to the touchline, because she was warmed up, she came ready, she was at the touchline, and then Galton went down, and then Mallard went back, put a bib back on. It was all just like, what's going on? And then she came on touchline, and then there was, I don't know if you heard it, Barry and Connor, where because Barry, you're a bit behind, and Connor, I think you were behind, but slightly over to the left of me. But when it was then Mallard coming on, who was it for? Mannion.
Yeah, Mannion.
You just heard everyone go, what's going on? And it wasn't like a bit of a grumble, like, oh, that's annoying, that's not the change I wanted, but I get it. It was like just a universal, what is going on? Like, what's he doing? It was just nonsense. It was frantic, I thought. I don't know what must have been going on that bench, but it was just everything, all at sea, everywhere. You had Nelson coming on, who's not been reintegrated back into the matchday squad properly, or the starting 11. You had Williams coming on, who last week had a boot on. It was then Leah Galton's on. really unlucky in final sheeters. Last season, she broke a leg and played on for 50 minutes. Again, injured, not coming off. And then Sandberg comes on. And then Galton, I don't know who was at fault for the third goal, but Galton plays a ridiculous pass back. I'm sure that's what it is. And Sandberg can't get up on the end of it. It's just the whole thing was, I just feel like it was a shame. It was a shame that was the last 15 minutes of our season. The last 20 minutes was that situation. It just looked amateur. It looked a bit like when we played Chelsea at Stamford Bridge last season. It had that vibe to it. Do you remember when Skinner was on the touchline, him and Zelen were arguing, and not that anyone was arguing with him, but it just had that same vibe about it. It was just chaos, I thought. It was like a bit
like we've not, and this is a thing I put in my article earlier, that we've not come back from behind to win once this season, like all season. Whereas, in previous seasons, we've done these comebacks and last minute winners and the rest of it. That's something this season, although there's other parts of the season when we come to our full season review, there'll obviously be positive to talk about. That is one thing this season we've not been able to do. And like you said, it did just feel, like I said, we went to a back three for exactly 6 minutes. And then we went back to a back four again, and Bizet was at right back, I think, at the time. And like Sandberg was kind of cutting it. I felt sorry for Sandberg, to be honest. I don't think she had a great 15, 20 minutes when she was on the pitch either.
But what's she going to do? She's a kid. She's been thrown on. The left winger is injured and can't move. Like, there's no one shielding the defence anymore. Because I think Nelson came on and she was fairly solid, but that's not her role, is it? She's not going to sit in like Janssen would do and be a shield. Like, she's just going to chase the ball, isn't she? And harry, but further up the pitch. And yeah, I felt bad for Sandberg. I don't know if I got this wrong, but she went off at the end. You could see Gabby George trying to grab hold of her and keep her out on the pitch, and she wasn't having it. She was off. And by the time I left the stadium, she hadn't come back out, I don't think. So it all felt really reactive with no semblance of reason or rationale as to why the changes were happening. But it felt a bit chaotic. It felt bonkers to me. Players coming on that I think hadn't warmed up properly either. Like Melvie Mallow did a proper warm-up and came on, and then someone else came on. It was just, I don't even know. And I'm talking a garbled, but that's what the experience was like. It was just what's going on here. And then we leaked 2 goals, set piece again, a mistake because they're under pressure. It just didn't work, did it? At all. No one knew what they were doing.
Especially because, like you said, obviously Galton went down. And she was down for a while. The stretcher then came onto the sidelines. We're thinking, okay, this is looking quite serious now. And then she was kind of just limping around. And again, she's not blessed with pace at the best of times, certainly this season, as we've noticed towards the back of the season. So it was almost like we were a player down. And that's not necessarily something against her. I just think she should have come off, because I don't know what at that moment she's doing. And obviously, Charlie's kind of mentioned it, obviously being chaotic as well. I know we had a bit of a chat after the game yesterday in terms of the subs, but they just didn't make any kind of impact, did they? Because I know when we're talking about Williams and Nelson, they came on the 81st minute, so you could argue 10 minutes, but there was 10 minutes added on, so technically they had 20 by the time they came onto the pitch. So there's a decent amount of time to make something of the game, but to be honest, for me, every sub we made, we got worse. by every sub, it just got worse and worse.
These were the substitutions of a manager of a Sunday League kids football team, where you've got to try and give equal playing time, is what it felt like to me, because I don't understand the sense of it. I think this was a manager who realised it absolutely ballsed it up, and he was now just trying to chase the game. But it's almost as if he's still trying to be clever and outsmart Sonia and the Chelsea players, and actually you can't really outsmart them. It's not about outsmarting them, you've got to outwork them, and this is part of the problem. So he was right to bring Ella Toone on. Millie Turner was hurt, but this is where it all starts to go wrong, because like we said, their system changes. So he brings on Ella Toone at halftime, moves Dominique back into the centre-back position, because obviously Millie Turner is the one that goes off, which means now he's got to drop back. So at this point, we're with the middle three that I'd suggested might potentially be there. If to be fair, Grace would probably be the one to have dropped for me out of those three. It didn't feel like a very good decision immediately, and it didn't really work. in the grand scheme of things, but we did have a good period of attacking at the beginning of the second half. And Ella Toone had an opportunity, one that she'll probably look back on and think she probably could have done a bit better with herself. But it was probably, with the exception of the header from Turland as well, our best opportunities. Obviously, Dominique had one in the first half. It was quite good, but just over. I think Turland had one that went over as well, didn't she? That was quite narrow, but at that point we were 3-0 down and it would have been a consolation, nothing else. But the real problem comes in with 20 minutes to go, because it's at that point, like you say, that we've had the injury. And what's so incredibly interesting about all of this is that it was still 1-0. We just needed a goal. You get a goal, potentially it goes to extra time. Potentially it goes to penalties. And so now he's trying to make these changes to try and get that goal, whilst forgetting the fact that we don't have that depth. I mean, again, that subs bench had Simi Awujo. I mean, you're the stats man when it comes to appearances, but she's not had loads of appearances, I don't think. Married Griffiths, who I think has played once and scored, and then never have we seen her since. Safi Middleton Patel, who was only coming on if Fallon Tullis-Joyce had a dodgy lasagna or something before the game. Melvine Mallard, who obviously you'd expect to see. Kayla Rendell, who was only coming on if Saf had also had some of that dodgy lasagna. Lisa Nolsson, who's barely played in the second half of this season. Anna Sandberg, who's had limited minutes. And Rachel Williams, who, you know, you're always going to give a bit of time to, but like we said, hasn't been well. And all of a sudden he started making changes, which really just annoys the continuity of the side. It was too many of them. So bringing off Aoife Mannion was absolutely the right decision, because she shouldn't have been anywhere near that starting lineup. I can't emphasize this enough. I can only be nice for so long. Aoife Mannion at right back is just as bad as Thor at left back. And it's just pathetic. You cannot tell me, that's it, I've gone. You cannot tell me that a manager, that somebody has actually gone and people at the FA have said, you look like you could be a coach. It's absolutely ridiculous that that's the decision we made. All of our attacks come down the wings and he's gone, yeah, that's the right one for that. He should be sacked for that decision alone. Like, and I can't, I'm sorry, Mark, if you're watching. I'm sorry, Mark's family. It's nothing personal, but that decision was so poor, it was unbelievable. And look what it's caused, because he changes the right back for a left midfielder or a striker. And he goes, don't worry, guys, I know what I'll do. I'll take our best attacking threat. Bear in mind, 1-0, we need a goal. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop him back into right back. Drop him back. Put him back at right. And then we'll take the left-sided one. We're going to put him over on the right. That'll catch him out. That'll do it. And yes, Leah, I know you nearly died, but you can carry on, because I will never take you off. Because clearly, you have got some stuff that would send me to jail if it ever came out, because I can never take you off the pitch unless somebody literally kills you. 6 minutes later, he goes, I know what I'll do. I'll take Gabby George, who, by the way, was one of my players of the match. I thought she was really working hard, both going forward and backwards. She was putting so much effort in, so much effort, it was unreal. No, you come off. We'll bring her on. That's what we'll do. We don't need hard workers in this team. Off. You're getting the hook. Still 1-0. Need a goal. I know what we'll do. Let's take off the best attacker we've got, who we've just put into right back, and let's bring on a woman who only had one leg a week ago. She's getting her pension next week. And we're going to put her on. Who we putting at right back, Mark? God knows. Who cares? Fallon can do it. What are we doing? So now, where's the defender gone? I couldn't even tell you who was right back at that point. I could not tell you, Connor, what happened when Celine went. Because who the bloody hell was supposed to play that? Who was supposed to do it? Who? We've gone from having the best right back potentially in the WSL to having potentially the worst right back in the WSL to having no flipping right back in the WSL. What the chuff? But that wasn't good enough. Let's also take off Hinnie, who, by the way, was nowhere near the level that everybody keeps on telling me she's at. And then we go, we don't need Simi, possibly one of the best talents we've got going for the future. No, I'm not going to give you a chance. We're going to bring on Lisa Nelson. And the minute we did that, 3 minutes later, we concede the stupidest free kick ever. And all I get from that goal is this from Maya Letizia, just letting somebody in at the front of them. It was chuffing ridiculous, that free kick. And I was annoyed. I was so annoyed. But then at 90 minutes, they play with my emotions, Connor. Because at 90 minutes, I heard somebody go, there'll be 10 minutes of added time, like 10 minutes. We can score 2 in 10. What an absolute moron I am. Because what happens? 3. And why has that happened? No other reason than the fact that Mark Skinner is about as good as substitutions as I am of reaching the top shelf of shops. I deliberately put the Calippos on the frozen area at the top. I can't reach it. I have to get tall people to get me to get the Calippos. It's ridiculous. Genuinely, the worst decisions ever. And if I'd have had the chance to meet Mark Skinner afterwards, I'd have told him, because that is on him. So don't sit there and start giving me this is what's happened in 5 games. We did what we needed to get to the Europeans, to the Europa. I've lost it now. I'm too busy trying to look at the comments to get our European qualification. But that, in the final, when you only need a goal, is tinkering when it's not necessary. And genuinely, I haven't sworn, Michael. I haven't sworn. You wait, and you'll know when I've sworn. So, yeah, the tinkering, awful. Awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There we go. That's the subs cover. So I didn't have anything to add to that. Obviously, you mentioned a couple of the goals there. Do we need to talk about? I can't lie to you, I can't remember. Was the second one the set piece, like the free header?
It was the header. It's the header where, like, Macario has 5 United players around her, 6 United players around her. Maya's the only one that puts in a half-bottomed attempt at trying to win the ball. I can't work out what we're doing from set pieces this season from a defensive point of view. I've no idea. It's like the plan is Fallon, come and claim it, and if you don't, because it doesn't make sense to you, there's no plan. Like, there was like five players looked like they were doing something zonal, but that's it. But they're not. There was no one tracking runners. It was just like it was. I don't know. I don't know what we were doing. I don't know what we were doing for that set piece. Nothing really. Just occupying an area. But like I said earlier, it was lumbering. The whole performance was lumbering, wasn't it? It was very strange. There's a still image of Macario heading that ball in, and you've got Maya being knocked over by her, and then you've got 4 or 5 other players just stood. So if it wasn't Macario, it would have been someone else, I think. It was just... But again, at that point, Barry, like, all those weird substitutions have started happening. No one probably knows what they're meant to be doing. Like, it's just, I don't know. It was just, it was, oh, thank you, Molly and Stanley. We're in agreement. Yeah, it was frustrating. I mean, like, I think I said to you both on the night, I sent you a little WhatsApp and I said it's frustrating. It's penalty, a set piece, and then a mistake, but just well beaten in the end. It just happened to be a penalty and a set piece, I think. But just
what frustrates me the most is that I've come away from this match annoyed at what Skinner's done, proud of the girls in general for making it into Europe. But if you were to ask me again what my highlight of yesterday was listening to Ollie bloody Mers sing Dance With Me Tonight. That was the most pleasure I got from being in that ground yesterday. And that's unforgivable because I didn't go to watch that man prance about with the Liverpool 1996 FA Cup losing side. I did not. For that, I can never forgive him. Never.
He didn't even wear his United shirt. What a loser. He's meant to be an absolute red as well. Didn't even bother wearing a United shirt. We're also, I know we're talking about that defensive set piece that we can see from, but we're also woeful from attacking set pieces. Like, it's gone from being defending set pieces and scoring from set pieces. We've gone from being like absolutely amazing at it to absolutely dreadful. Was there a set piece in the first half? It must have been, because I was looking at half a sea of blue across the way. And it just went over everyone. Absolutely over everyone, and went out for a throw-in. How? I don't get it. I mean, I was glad they weren't doing something weird and like passing it backwards and doing a rainbow flick before knocking it in, because that's normally what they try and do. But it's just painful. I love the team. Someone said earlier, United players won't run through a brick wall for Skinner and the Chelsea players will for their manager. I think our players will run through a brick wall for each other, and that's what's probably carried them this far, hasn't it? That sort of, Barry, you talk about being like a proper team and they fight for each other, but I think that only takes you so far, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think as well, like obviously, we didn't rely on set pieces a lot in previous seasons, but we were certainly more.
We're better with them.
It's just another way of scoring, isn't it? If you're very easy to defend against and very one-dimensional, as I think we have been this season, which hence the lack of goals, you need something else. You need set plays and things like that. And we, to be honest, we're just not that good at them this season for defending and attacking. So that's certainly something that needs to work on this summer. And I agree. When we're attacking free kicks, Janssen scored so many. like what?
Well, I remember you telling us that when we signed her, how good she is with free kicks. I ain't seen her take one.
Like, I don't get it. Like, we're insistent. I don't know why. We're insistent on floaty. I think Barry, you said this, of floaty crosses. Like, kind of just like dinking it as far as you can with no pace on it and everything else. You watch I hate doing this. You watch the way Chelsea cross the ball. It's whipped in with pace and speed because that is the best way. Because as we nearly saw, Gabby Jordan scored a bloody own goal because of one of Chelsea's crosses that was whipped in, and Gabby couldn't adjust quick enough, and that nearly went into the back of the net as well. So that's how you got to start putting the crosses in. Jade and Celine do that for the most part. I've not seen Celine do it much in recent weeks. I can't lie. I don't quite know what the reason is. But we just need to see that more often, from multiple step plays. But yeah, it's incredibly frustrating. And do we need to talk about the third goal? I can't lie to you. I can't even remember it. I just remember going in and just being like, because I think I said it 2-0. I said to the person next to me, I was like, I just hope it doesn't get embarrassing, because 2-0, you lose a final, fair enough. The third win, and I was like, oh my life, there's another 9 minutes left now. Like, this could be anything. Like, if they really turn the screw now, we're all over the place. So that's why I was.
Andy Baltimore got the ball near the penalty spot, and we gave her 2 goes. 2 goes at it. Like, this is what I mean. The bit that frustrates me is, and please don't get me wrong, I know we've had a lot of Chelsea fans who come in here, and God bless you all. You've actually been quite respectful considering what it's been like. But they were the better side. But what frustrates me is we're all sitting here talking as if it was, a perennial performance for the ages by Chelsea. And it wasn't. It was just self-destruct. We gave away a penalty. We gave away a shoddy free kick. And then at the very end, just when we thought maybe we can get ourselves up there and do something, we conceded just a stupid last goal because we weren't able to close down enough. So, it was just self-destruct mode. And that, I think, is what frustrates me almost as much as the substitution drama. It is that it was literally all self-inflicted wins.
Yeah, and I think I can't remember. Was it Sandberg? No, it wasn't. It was Lisa Nelson, wasn't it, in the middle? I think it was at the time.
But it came from. There was some sort of. I'm sure I might have just I've got it completely wrong. But I'm sure there was a ball played back, but like over Sandberg's shoulder, that she couldn't control, which allowed someone to run on, or maybe that was another chance they didn't score from. I'm sure that was it. Just a useless.
Yeah, so it was Galton who carried like a back pass. Sandberg's looking over her shoulder. It's gone behind her. The cross has come in. Nelson just gets completely turned, obviously, by Baltimore in the middle, and it's whacked home. But yeah, so it's just another poor one, isn't it? Like, when you look at it from that, especially like I said in the final, it's just disappointing in that respect. Like, I was more worried the fact, like I said earlier, that there was 10 minutes up on the board, because as Barry said, at 1-0 or 2-0, whatever, you're like, okay, 10 minutes, that's good. At 3, I'm like, oh my god, could there not have been just 3 minutes added on before this gets a really embarrassing scoreline?
Yes, he did have a plan B, but the B stood for bloody bonkers. It's like the chuffing cha-cha slide out there. Crisscross. Nobody is that right back.
Get that clipped and all. Anyway, right, I want to move on to something just a slightly bit different. in that respect. Before we come to player of the match and all the rest of it, I just want to quickly talk on the gap to Chelsea. Skinner got asked about this a lot in the pre-match. He got asked about it a lot in the post-match as well. Obviously, we know the investment that's going into Chelsea because, of course, they need more money and all of that kind of thing. They've gone unbeaten in the league, domestic treble. Do we feel closer, or this is going to sound a ridiculous question, do we feel closer or further away than Chelsea? The reason why I asked that question is because at LSV, I stand by the fact that was our best overall performance against them. So it can be done. However, the two other games, I felt like we're a million miles away. The game at Kingsmeadow, I don't think we competed. And the final, I think the first thing I said to Barry, when Barry came over and asked, what did you think of the game? I think the first thing I said to him was, they're just better than us, is the first thing I said, because that's just what it is.
I feel like, and again, people will disagree, but I feel like looking at the last couple of seasons, I feel like we're shoulder to shoulder pretty much with Arsenal and City, I would say. But I just think Chelsea are just miles better than everyone else. Everyone else, not just us. This isn't just an us thing. They're miles better than everyone else. We can't keep up. No one can keep up. No one can match the level of investment. And also, like, they've got they've gone from having an outstanding coach to potentially having an even better one, haven't they? And also to get that calibre of coach, you've got to show the commitment to the investment and the want to succeed. So there's more than one facet to this. But yeah, we're miles away, but so are everyone else. Which I know it's like saying, I know it's like going, but they're rubbish as well, so it doesn't matter. It does matter, but everyone is a million miles away from them. Thank God they're a million miles away from Barcelona, is all I'll say.
Yeah, I think it's a strange one because, as James mentioned, I think in one-off games Chelsea got, and I don't think this season Chelsea have been amazing in the second half of the season. Brighton, Everton, other teams have pushed Chelsea, in one-goal scoreline, including us. In both league meetings it was a one-goal scoreline, but they just win. This is what was worrying me when I think I said this on the preview. There is, especially at Wembley, obviously we're talking about the final, there's always an inevitability about Chelsea at Wembley. I don't know what Chelsea's record is at Wembley, but it's ridiculously good in terms of their record there. So it was always going to be tough in that sense. I asked this question because I don't know the answer. Because I felt before the game we were closer to them this season, despite the points difference than what it was a couple of years ago. However, watching that game, I now think we're actually quite far. And we asked the question on the preview in terms of how many of our players would get into Chelsea's squad. I still stand by 3 at the most would get into their team. And that's Fallon, Mayer, and Jay for me. I know people would argue for other players as well, but I just don't think we're as, and like you said, Charlie, it's not just us. Look at how many points Arsenal finished behind, City are even further behind. Like it's not just us. But the only thing I'll disagree with you, Charlie, on in terms of the sense of other teams can't match the spending. Other teams can, they choose not to. I think that's the difference. Like we've got the same amount of money, I think, as Chelsea in the respect of what we could spend. We just choose not to.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Like teams aren't matching investment. That's what I mean. Like like we talked about it before, didn't we? That it wouldn't take, like in the grand scheme of professional football, it wouldn't take that much when you compare it to what it is in the men's game to be incredibly competitive. But I would also query whether we have the coaching set up, even if we went out and spent a lot of money on 4, 5, 6 world-class players, whether we have the coaching set up to get the best of it anyway. But yeah, like City and Arsenal and like if you think like the investment in women's, Brighton, they could all match it because the men's side of things make a lot of money, but they're not for whatever reason. And it might be about wanting it to be profitable and be organic and be sustainable, but on its own. But
well, that's it. To be fair, just very quickly on that point, my little finance sheet that someone made for me in terms of the last 4 years of accounts for the top 4 clubs. United made a profit for the last, or have done recently, and not last season, I don't think, or last calendar year, but did make a profit. Arsenal were very close to breaking even despite all the games at the Emirates because of how much money that generates and the rest of it, and they get a lot from and various other things and sponsorships and the rest of it. Chelsea are making a massive loss. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I agree with you, Charlie, in the sense that maybe clubs in the women's game want to make it sustainable in that sense, whereas Chelsea just don't care how much money they lose as long as they throw it. I would prefer that, because obviously that would mean the United team gets better, but other teams just don't seem to want to do what Chelsea do and just throw money and are happy to make a big loss every season. I see Barry's unmuted, so I kind of stopped there to let you let you go ahead.
No, I was unmuted and then I coughed, so I muted and then I unmuted again, waiting for my question. But listen, I don't think the gap is ridiculously wide. I mean, we had Emily on the preview, and she was quite clear that it wasn't Arsenal that were pushing Chelsea for the title. It was us. Now, it's not suggesting that we were on our way to go and win it, because obviously those last 3 games were always going to be incredibly difficult for us. And do you know what? We worked hard and we got the results that we needed. Well, the results, we got a draw against City. And you will get people that will say, if City hadn't had the injuries, then we wouldn't have made it into the top 3. Well, if wishes were fishes, the world would be an ocean, and it's not. So, let's not worry too much about that. I think what's important for me in all of this is that we got the European football, and that is massive, because that gives us the opportunity to sell the project to a few more people. But what's got to happen is we from 2 years ago, we haven't replaced the absolute exodus that we had of players. We let so many go. And I'm sorry, the difference between Chelsea and Man United isn't the first 11. It's really not. You said this is the biggest gap that we lost in this season. You look at the games we had against Chelsea in general this season, against Arsenal, against City. Our first 11 is a match for anybody in this league, and I will die on that hill. If you sit there with Fallon in goal, Gabs, Millie, Maya, Jade, that back 5 is not easy to beat. They're a very good back 5. Celine on the right is superb as well. The problem comes in with where your first 11 is. I had a bit to say there about Hinney, but what we've got to remember, and this is where Mark Skinner is going to have to start putting up or shutting up, because Katie Zellum wasn't a defensive midfielder, but we kept playing her there. Hinata Miyazawa is the top goal scorer from the World Cup, and she's now playing as a defensive midfielder. That can't be right. So why are we doing this? Why are we taking these people? It's almost as if he's going, well, these are people that are going to help us in transition. And it's because, again, we don't seem to have this ability for progressive passing. They had the midfield, Chelsea, and they had that midfield because we try and bypass it time and time again. And we use those midfielders in the hope that if they do pick up the ball, they're just going to spread it out wide. And when we then end up losing the likes of Jade Riviere, we don't have the ability to put the ball wide. So we lose it because we don't. Every ball we were playing forward, Connor, was to someone who had their back to goal, which meant all they could do was lay it back off again for someone else. That's another reason why you needed Ella Toone, because Ella Toone is likely to have a dig. I would at least have maybe had a few more shots than the 5 that we managed. It was 8 shots less than Chelsea had. The big issue for me is the depth. That substitutes bench. I mean, Charlie referenced it earlier. They brought on Guru Wrighton on 92 minutes for a giggle. With 10 minutes to go, normally you'd have gone, I've got 3 substitutes I'm going to make. I'm going to make them and stagger them through the 10 minutes in the hope that we can waste a little bit of time. Chelsea just went, we don't need to waste any time. We've got this trophy in the bag. We'll just do it all at once. Why not? Give them a little 8-minute run out. Why not? And that's what they did. And they brought on players for a giggle. I mean, to be fair, I think Skinner brought some players on for a giggle as well, because he can't have been chuffing serious with what he was doing. So that's the issue for me. It's the depth. You shouldn't have 2 goalkeepers on your bench. That's ridiculous. So that's a problem. And then when you look at those people that we were talking about on the bench, really, Melvin Mallard is the only one who I would, and Ella Toone, obviously, were the only 2 that I would have sat on and thought, those are players that could potentially help us to change the game. The rest of the players weren't going to go off and get us a goal. They weren't going to make huge changes. They were players that we'd use for positional problems. If you've got someone who's injured in defensive midfield, you're going to put somebody like that on. So I don't think it's that big. I think the big problem, and this isn't a WSL problem, by the way, this is still women's football, is that it's still behind in terms of how the men are viewing the game, in terms of letting them have the stadium. Arsenal proved it. Just give Everton, God bless them, we're going to get rid of Goodison Park. And then they went, you know what we'll do? We're going to give Goodison Park to the ladies so that we don't lose the history and it's still there. What a great idea. Everton's attendance is atrocious. Like the capacity of Walton Hall Park is 2,200. But out of that 2,200, they get about 1,800 regularly. But at Goodison Park, they tend to do a little bit better. So I think the idea is to do that. No, it's not going to fill out all the time, but this is what Arsenal are doing. So they're supporting their team in that respect. And it's the same with the money. There's a lot of people going on in the chat, and I get it. Oh, let's just ban Chelsea from having any signings. No, the other clubs have just got to match it. And the reason why they won't match it is because you don't get much money back unless you're going to be getting stuff through the gates. That's how the game's going to go there. You've got to speculate to accumulate. And we're not doing that in the women's game. And as a result, it's never going to catch on to that degree. You know, people keep saying, I'm sick of talking about the attendances if people don't want to come. It's not that people don't want to come. It's that we're not putting it in places where it's accessible and easy to come. People want to go to their ground to watch their team play. When you put a team that's meant to be the top women's team in your group and you're putting them in another stadium, that's no different to what you do with your under 21. So how much are you rating them? So listen, I think it's really important that more effort goes into supporting the ladies, and they've got to do that. So I don't think on the pitch it's that bad, but this season we have got to have a better transfer window. We've got to maintain the people that we need, but we can't be going into another season. And to be fair, this thing at right back, we mentioned this right at the very beginning. Evie Rabjohn has been injured all season. This is not a new thing. It's not like we're sitting there going, boys, Jay got injured just before the FA Cup final. What a nightmare. And we're not saying that. We knew it. So sort it out.
Yeah, I've not disagreed with anything you said today. That could be an interesting proposition. If you've got the funds to let us buy some shares in the club, then by all means. But that would bring with it some very different pressures.
You know what? There used to be a football club. You probably don't remember it, Connor, because you've never seen anything that was even remotely interesting. But they actually had a football club where they made the fans the manager, and they would almost text in what they wanted for the teams. They voted who it would be. I just think that would be fascinating. Even if it was just for a few games, if the fans picked the team, it would be unreal.
That would be quite something.
I'd
see that. Do you know, like in America, they have the draft system and the rest of it. Like over here, you just have like one game week a season where the fans pick everything and just see how it goes. That's I reckon that'd catch on. But there we go. Right, speaking of players, let's come around to player of the match then. I'll leave the poll running for another 2 minutes while I quickly go around the panel and see what everyone's thoughts are. Charlie, who was your player of the match for yesterday?
Well, I was a bit annoyed because I wanted Fallon to be in the player of the match poll because I do think she actually made some decent saves later on, and for her little poo-housery for the that was my highlight of the day. I went for, in the end, I went for Janssen. I thought she was solid. I thought she did a job when she went to centre-back. What a surprise that the centre-back did a good job when she was slotted in at centre-back. But it was difficult to choose today. I went for her. I thought she was decent. I thought she did a half-decent job. Disappointed that she didn't do better with her chance, but there was no one on the pitch that was better than Fallon or her, in my humble opinion. But slim pickings on it.
I think that's fair. It is tough. I think, it's hard to pick four. I think, it was hard to pick four for this one. Barry, who was yours for yesterday?
My player of the match for yesterday was Rosa and her little gang of people at Bucks Park.
Yes.
Because genuinely, had it not been for that little gaggle of girls making all the noise and screaming and shouting at the DJ and forcing the band to play Living on a Prayer so everybody can sing Jade Riviere, which, by the way, I've got to tell you, was the actual highlight of my day. It wasn't Ollie Murs, it was that moment.
What did they, Barry? Barry, what did they? Oh, they're in the chat. What did you text the DJ that your club name was? So when he was reading out club shout outs, what did you say it was? Because it was absolutely amazing. It was something to do with Lee Sports Village. I flipping loved it. As soon as he said it, I turned to my mate. I was like, I know that's going to be. I know that's going to be. Yes, that was it. Funny. It was dead funny.
That's the ultras. There you go. So I thought that was superb. Absolutely brilliant. And I really enjoyed that. And honestly, I think had they not been in there, Box Park would have not been even remotely close. Chelsea had one severely intoxicated Smurf who came forward to try and get the band to do stuff, and that just did not happen at all. But our little gang of ladies absolutely nailed it and quite literally forced the bass guitarist to go over to the lead singer and go, we are going to have to play Living on a Prayer. And it was clever because it was the sort of music they were playing. So listen, they're absolutely my heroes for that as well. And yes, I did hear you briefly as I wandered past going, oh look, there's Barry, but I thought I'd leave you to your celebrations because you didn't need me getting involved. And to be honest with you, I couldn't have kept up with you. You lot were absolutely wild. But if I have to pick somebody on the pitch, I'm with Charlie. I think Dominique was my player of the match. I thought she was superb in midfield. It was between her and Maya for me because, as I said, Maya was an absolute rock getting back. But I think that second goal, she for me, possibly a little bit more at fault for not getting in front of the player. And so as a result, I think she loses it just on that narrowly. So, yeah, DJ for me, which was good because the DJ at Box Park was quite good as well. So, good day for DJs.
I tend to agree on Janssen, actually. She interestingly, she hasn't won it she's not even second in the chat either, percentage-wise. But, yeah, I would have gone for Janssen or Mayer were the two that screamed out to me when I left the ground. Yeah, I'd have gone for Janssen as well, to be fair. I think Mayer's won it in the chat on 40%. Mia's out 25, Janssen 21, Clinton 12. So that's the order from the chat in that one. But yeah, it's tough, isn't it? When you lose 3-0 in a final, it's always tough to find players, kind of in that sense and the rest of it. Very quickly, while we're talking about players of the match and players of everything else, I've literally just tweeted it. So go and check it out. It's our pinned tweet. A week today is our award show, Player of the Season, Goal of the Season. Once again, if you haven't already done this, everyone gets 2 votes per category. So for your Player of the Season, if you want to go for Mayer and Janssen, you can do. You can put both of them. And same for Goal of the Season. You can pick 2 goals. Literally, just reply to the tweet. I'll do the same on TikTok and the same on Instagram, so you can vote on any platform. You go and do it once, so don't spam us with votes. On that one, it's only 1 per person on that one, but you do get 2 votes per category. It's the pinned tweet, so you can go and check that out. And in a week's time, we'll do our top 5 as we usually do. It's my favourite show of the year. So yeah, we'll be back to do that next week. So the tweet is out there. Make sure you go and vote on that one. A lot of people actually tweeted us when the fan votes, the official United ones went out. They were like, "This is why we need the United." And we're tagging us in various different posts, and we can't wait for yours for a proper one. So there we go. But yeah, that's on the Twitter now. It'll be on Instagram and TikTok later on when I can be bothered to sort that out. to put it in a simple way. But there we go. Right, there's a quick question about the sevens, because obviously that is this week. Do we think we'll expect a partnership after the sevens? I mean, yes, is the very short answer. But where I wanted to quickly go with that, are either of you two excited? Wednesday, we've had the squad come out today. There's a couple of omissions. But
yeah, I just love live sport, and it's Man United, so buzzing. Where can we watch this?
It's on DAZN.
What?
DAZN, yeah.
Oh, right, okay. That's fine. I think you glitched out for me momentarily there. I love it. And I keep accidentally calling it Rugby World Sevens, which I know it isn't. But imagine, I cannot wait. Yeah, there's only a couple not going, aren't there? Which is interesting. So many of them are going.
I'm really looking forward to it. I think there's a load of people, and I call these people slightly weird, who think it's a bad idea that we have got this just before the internationals. But I say to you, Connor, and I put it to you, that I could not give a fig about the international teams going in for the UEFA Nations League, because you can get 5 million smackaroos being put into this, and we're sitting here talking about investment. If we can get that money and it goes to the girls, then that is a good thing. My biggest question is how it is that it's the sevens. That means you can have 7 players on the pitch, but we've named a 20-person squad. And I presume that 3 of those are goalkeepers just for the shizzles.
Rolling subs. Go, 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 go.
That's a lot of people for 7 places. Like, they're all going to get like 10 minutes by the looks of things.
It's going to be pretty chaotic. I think
how
that's what
unusual
makes it
for us.
exciting, though.
I think it'll be good.
Obviously, for people who haven't seen already the squad, the players that are not going, Jay Riviere, Evie Rabb, John Lucino, Hinata Miyazawa, Marid Griffiths, and Anna Sandberg are the players that are not going. Everyone else is going there, including Jess Simpson and Emma Watson, who obviously have come back off loan as well. So that'll be exciting for them. And Kira Barry as well, it's worth noting, is going for players that maybe we haven't seen this season. I think it's going to be good. It's 2 or 3 days, of just crazy. And it's something different. As people have mentioned, the money is ridiculous. When you look at
what day does it start?
It's Wednesday, isn't it? Yeah, our first game's on Wednesday.
At a decent
What time?
I should know because I tweeted. I can't actually remember. I think it's 4:30. I want to say one of our games. Hang on. Before I say that, let me get the post.
We'll get Wednesday at 6 from Becky.
Yes, Becky.
It might be at 6. One of our games is at 4:30. I know that.
How exciting!
There we go. Yeah. So Wednesday at 6, and then we've got 2 games on Thursday, which is at 4:30 and at 9:30.
4:30 and 9:30.
Yeah, on Wednesday.
Yeah, we start against Roma 6 o'clock on Wednesday.
That's
that one
perfect.
is
because what's right between that?
What, 4:30 and 9:30?
On
I don't know. I'm a
Wednesday, isn't that
celebrity.
the Europa League final on Wednesday?
Thursday, the 2 games.
Wednesday's the Europa League final.
Oh, the game's on Thursday. Oh, that's fine then. I thought I was going to be in for like 7 or 8 hours of just pure United techers. Okay.
So there we go.
Amazing.
Yeah, we'll look forward to that. We might do a show actually later in the week, maybe on Friday. It might have to be a bit late because I think the finals are like 9 o'clock actually, so maybe we won't. That's a late show if we're going to do one.
So finally, we could do a watch along. We haven't done one of those in years.
Yes, we haven't done it since.
Who wants a watch along? Let's put some peer pressure on Connor.
Yeah.
Everybody,
when would we do it?
Up for a watch along if we make the final.
If we make the final, yeah.
Oh yeah, we don't want to do one on Thursday. Sod that for a game of soldiers.
That is a lot watch along if we do it on
If
Thursday.
we do a watch along, get the LSV Ultras on just for fun. Get them all on in one place. They can do the halftime entertainment.
The people are speaking. They're loving it.
Well,
I just wanted to do a shout out to somebody else just because I feel like you're going to end it all now. A big thank you to Sarah W, who I don't think has said anything today, but it was really nice. We didn't get to see too many people that we did last year, which was really nice. I do think I saw Puzzling Time again. I think that was you whose hand I shook. But yeah, really nice to see you. So sorry that we didn't get to see too many of you, but yeah, rubbish start time. But yes, really nice to see a few of you out there.
No, absolutely. So yeah, appreciate all your kind words about the channel and the rest of it after the game. Yeah, I'm going to save all my end of the season stuff for our actual end of season show and the awards next week. So I'm not going to say anymore. I'll save all the rest of it for that. On that one. But yeah, so we might see you again on Friday, depending on what happens in the sevens. If not, to be honest, I'm tempted to just do a show on Friday anyway now, just because of we'd have played 3 games by then. So, and even then we'll be in there's a 3rd place playoff. I'm sure there is. So we'll be in that anyway, I assume. So there we go. So yeah, we will more than likely be back on Friday. But at the very latest, we'll be back next Monday for the award show at 7 o'clock. So that'll be something quite entertaining. Charlie's got something.
No, I'm just going, yeah,
All right.
whoop, whoop.
All right.
I'm
You put your hand up to say
I'm
something
just
then.
excited. So I'm thinking about my votes as well. I'm going to do my votes.
I was going to say, we've had,
Probably.
so if people haven't already, as I said, make sure you go and get on the Twitter. That's probably the best place for it. People, again, are not understanding the rules. You have 2 votes per category. A lot of people are just saying one name. You have 2. So make sure you use
Gotta
both
say
because
2.
it helps us create a top 5 when you're replying to the tweet. A lot of shouts for Fallon and Jade so far. They're definitely going to be the runaway because I think every single person so far has said those 2, which is... could be quite something. But yeah, get all your votes on there and we'll come back to that, like I said, in a week's time. But yeah, we'll round it off there. It's been a good little show, this, for a loss. Unfortunately, not quite the FA Cup final show that we had last year. But you can't win them all. We'll be back there next year and claim it back off Chelsea anyway, so it's fine. Thanks for all your comments. You've been absolutely brilliant. So many of you, as always, in the chat. You've made us laugh, and you've laughed along at Barry's little segments as well as we've gone. Yeah, I'm going to save all my end of season stuff for next week. But obviously, from a match reaction point of view, appreciate all of you that have come back every single match. As we said, win, lose, draw. We're always here doing the match reactions on Monday at 7:00. So massively appreciate all of you this season. Yeah, have a good week all, and we'll see you later on in the week. See you later.